What's up, Flying Squad? Thank you for checking out this content. We're going to talk about each fight from UFC Fight Night 86, just briefly, my pick and the reason for that pick, sans the main event and co-main event. If you want to check out my video for each one of those, you can go right here or right here, somewhere in this area, and I'll put links in the description box below that you can check out my Ben Rothwell versus Junior Dos Santos, and also my Gabriel Gonzaga versus Derek the Black Beast Lewis. So we're going to start with the first fight of the night, which is going to start in the morning on Sunday, April 10th. We're going to be in the welterweight division with Bojan Servian Steel Velekovic versus Manzo Alessio Di Cericho. Velekovic has fought the way better competition in his career. He has won 8 of his fights by submission. For those two reasons, I've got Velekovic on my UFC pick'em by submission in round number 2. Moving right along, we're going to head to the heavyweight division for a fight between Jared Cannonier and Cyril Asker. One fun thing about this fight is that both guys are nicknamed after gorillas. Cannonier is the Killer Gorilla and Asker is Silverback. Neither of these guys look very impressive on film, but I know a little bit more about Cannonier, so let me say a few things about him. He hasn't fought in over a year. A guy that hasn't fought in 12 or more months only wins 40% of the time. We all know that, of course. And his last victory was in 2014. He went the 5-round distance against a 205-pound, 42-year-old man. That does not bode well. He also hasn't moved his camp out of Alaska, which I don't like too much. I would want to pick Asker here because he's a slight underdog, but I'm going to be passing on a play, and I'll just pick Cannonier to win because I know very, very little about Asker. We're going to move on to featherweight fight between Robert the Hammer Whiteford and Lucas Mineiro Martins. Neither of these guys are very good in the grappling department, but Martins is going to have a slight advantage there. Martins also is a little bit taller, he's a little bit longer, and he's a little bit younger, but I think that Whiteford hits quite a bit harder. And one thing that I want to focus on in this fight is that Martins has a tendency to stand a little bit too tall and have his chin exposed. Whiteford is really good at finding that chin. He is also really close to home. Basically because Whiteford hits harder, I'm picking him KO or TKO in round number 2. We're going to move on to a bantamweight fight between Nitro Filip Pajic and Damian Webster Stasiak. Pajic says that he's not impressed with Stasiak, but I think that Stasiak is the better fighter all around in this fight. I think that despite Pajic having a slight age and reach advantage, they're not significant. Stasiak has fought the higher level of competition. That is the theme throughout this entire fight card. For that reason, I'm picking Damian Webster by decision. Next up, a lightweight fight between Mairbek Taisimov and Damir Hadzovic. Now this is going to be an extremely fun fight. Both of these guys are very fun strikers, but I think that Taisimov is a couple of notches better than Hadzovic. I like how UFC is kind of slow rolling this guy, but I think that he definitely gets the victory here. Not only is Taisimov better in the striking department, I also think he's better in the grappling department, and overall, he's more well-rounded. I'm picking Taisimov to win via KO or TKO in round number 2. I would pick it in the first round, but Taisimov couldn't finish Christo Dulu in one round, so I don't think that he's going to do it to Hadzovic because my good friend Daniel Levy says that Hadzovic is a pretty good guy as well. Next up, a bantamweight fight between Ian Enti Entwistle and Alejandro Diablito Perez. Now, that stat about fighters being out for more than a year is going to come into play again as Enti has sat out for a while, but I don't think that it's going to matter. I'm not that impressed with Perez. I think that Enti could submit anybody in this division with a knee bar. This guy's like a smaller, lighter, less insane Husamar Palhares. Now, Perez is going to be dancing around quite a bit, but I think that Enti's going to be able to catch him and submit him with a knee bar in the first round. Enti has won all of his fights in the first round, most of them by submission. I think that he keeps that streak. He's also really cheap on DraftKings. I think that you should snipe him on there. We're moving on to a welterweight fight between Nicholas Dalby and Zach Cummings. Dalby in his last fight showed me so many things that I was impressed by. His heart, his determination, his chin, his durability, which is chin, his ability to come back. But yet, I'm picking the American in this one. Now, I'm glad Goldie isn't commentating this fight because the entire time he would talk about how big Zach Cummings is. He has fought at 205 pounds, but on paper, he's not that much bigger than Dalby. But I think that once they're in the cage, Cummings should have a little bit of a size advantage. And then also, Dalby hasn't faced a guy that has the awkward kind of grinding ability of Zach Cummings. And also, Dalby has shown a little bit of a hole in his game against southpaws. And Cummings, kind of like the notorious Conor McGregor, not many people can take that left-hand shot. So I've got Cummings in this fight, despite saying that he has a pretty sweet left hand. I think that he's going to win a decision. We're moving on. Women's bantamweight fight between the Iron Lady, Marina Moroz, and Barbie, Christina Stansu. Now, despite Stansu's nickname being Barbie, far and away, Moroz is the better looking girl. She's also the better fighter, and she is better in the area where Stansu excels, which is with her submissions. Moroz has some really unorthodox ways about going at her submissions, and against Valerie Letourneau, she did a lot of things that were wrong. But nonetheless, I think that she has fought the better competition. She is better in the areas where Stansu is okay, and I think that she gets a submission either early on or possibly wins a decision, because I can't really bank on women's fights getting finished unless, they're Ronda Rousey via armbar or stuff like that. I'm picking Moroz, the Iron Lady, by decision. We're moving on. Light heavyweight fight between Igor Pakrajak and Jan Blachowicz. Now, Jan is UFC Fringe top 15. Igor has been cut by the UFC in the past. He's making his return here. Jan is the largest favorite on the card. I think that is for good reason. I think that he gets a first round stoppage. Look to put him on your DraftKings team. Next up, we have Timothy Johnson versus Marcin Tybura. Tybura is making his UFC debut here. He's right at the line where you need to be at a heavyweight, according to Joe Rogan, of course. 245 pounds-ish. Now, Timothy Johnson is every bit 265. Tybura moves better. He has a more diverse striking attack, throws a lot of kicks. I haven't seen too much of his cardio, but I would assume that it's better than Johnson's. Johnson does hit harder, so this is a really close fight to call for me. I'm not really certain in Timothy Johnson's abilities or in his cardio. I'm picking the smaller guy to have the better cardio. I'm kind of going out on a limb here. I think that Tybura gets a late TKO stoppage. We're going on to another fight in the heavyweight division. Francis Gano versus Curtis Razor Blades. Gano is currently the favorite, even though Blades opened as the favorite. A lot of people, I think, are picking Gano because he is a shredded heavyweight. He's a very intimidating looking guy. His nickname is the Predator, and yeah, he's a scary looking dude. Curtis Razor Blades is also a large man, and his physique is decent. Gano has a very distinct hole in his game, which is grappling, and that is Curtis Blades' area of expertise. He was a junior college national champion wrestler. You would think this is a striker versus grappler, but Blades also has some decent stand-up striking as well. But I think that Blades is going to get Gano down to the ground early and get a first round KO or TKO stoppage as another dog coming through on this fight card. So that's all that I'm doing for this fight card for right now. You can check out my main event and co-main event videos right here or in the description box below. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Once again, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. That would mean a lot to me. And I'll see you on my next video. Namaste.